Greetings, friends, fellow patriots, and fellow citizens, and welcome to this week's edition of the We the People Convention Weekly News and Opinion Podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski, and I'm the host of this podcast, and I'm also the president of the We the People Convention organization. This podcast and everything we do as an organization is funded by the generous donors of the We the People Convention who pay for our website, our text messages, our emails, our donations to other conservative individuals and groups, and for this podcast. And if you are able to support our organization and our mission to protect and to defend individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, please go to wethepeopleconvention.org and click on the donate link and give what you can. We'd greatly appreciate it. And for all of you who have been supporting this organization for the last 16 years, thank you for your loyalty and your support. We could not have done the many things we have done without it. So thank you to our donors. For those of you who are new to this podcast, and we are now having a larger footprint in social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Getter, we're on Gab, we're on MeWe, we're on, TikTok, we're on all kinds of things. And so we're getting new people. And for those of you who are new, what we want you to know is that our organization is committed to protecting and defending your and our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. That's what we do. Now, we cover the news. This whole podcast is designed that if you didn't watch any news all week, you could watch this one podcast and know the things that are going on politically mostly, but also culturally, that affect you directly and affect all of our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. And then we don't just talk about it, we take action. We will ask you to do things in this podcast that will help protect all of our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. Okay? So this is what this is about. Welcome to those of you who are new. And thank you to all of you who've been with us from the beginning. We really appreciate it. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And we're here for you. We're not just doing this because we have nothing else to do. This is, believe me, if I could walk away today, I would. But we can't because our freedom is in serious jeopardy. We have not won the war. We are currently engaged in a hot civil war where people are being injured and killed, and violence is taking place in our country because the left is desperately trying to overthrow the United States. We've been talking about that for several weeks. We're going to give you more examples of that, but we're going to begin with, the whole government shutdown, which I said to you guys in the past, we're all for this. Shut it down. This is a gift to Donald Trump, a total gift. And so we're excited. So, on Monday, the shutdown had to happen on Wednesday, October 1st. And so, Trump had Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries demanded that they, meet with him in the White House to pretend they wanted to actually come to some sort of an agreement. They didn't. The Democrats intend to shut down the government because they think that will slow down Trump's deportation of their illegal immigrant army, okay? And that it will hurt Trump's economy. It's not going to work. So Trump had them into the White House and just trolled them. You can see in this picture, if you're watching, if you're listening, on the desk, Trump's desk, he had Trump 2028 hats. I mean, it was just in your face. And basically, he told them, hit the road. We're $37 trillion in debt. We're spending $2 trillion more a year than we have in income, and you want us to raise the budget in a 7-week CR to add like $1.5 trillion to our spending to do what? To fund insurance for illegal immigrants? Well, yeah, because that's your army that you need to keep here, and that's what you're fighting for. but Trump just laughed them out of the room, and rightfully so. So let me just cover that for a second here. Trump's master stroke: why the government shutdown is essential to drain the swamp and reshape D.C. in days. Democrats in full panic mode. In a fiery video that's on this page on our website at wethepeopleconvention.org, in this article, that Patriots cheering economic expert Peter Ong, who breaks down the looming 2025 government shutdown, declaring it is a golden opportunity for President Donald J. Trump to slash wasteful spending and fire thousands of bloated bureaucrats. Ong warns the federal government is about to run out of spending authority, emphasizing how this impasse plays right into Trump's hands to cut the fat from the deep state machine. This shutdown, set to hit on October 1st, isn't a crisis. It's a necessity, conservatives argue, to dismantle the Marxist infiltrated bureaucracy that bleeds Americans dry for decades. With Democrats feigning eagerness for the shutdown while privately panicking over lost power, Trump holds all the cards: executive authority to furlough non-essential workers, forcing agencies, and implementing long overdue reforms within days. Right-wing voices like those at Breitbart and the Gateway Pundit celebrate this as Trump's chance to fulfill his promise to drain the swamp. And so you can see Ong's video on our website in that story. It continues: as the left squirms, patriots know this is how we make America great again. Fast, furious, and unapologetically. The shutdown is desperately needed because Washington has become a bloated behemoth, sucking up tax dollars to fund radical agendas that harm real Americans. Under Biden's 4 years of socialist spending sprees, the federal budget balloons over $6.8 trillion annually, with trillions wasted on green energy scams, illegal alien handouts, and DEI indoctrination programs that conservatives at Fox News have blasted as anti-American. And they are anti-American. And so this is an opportunity, and they're going to take advantage. So when the shutdown happened, Trump said, I'm going to meet with Russ Vought, and they're plotting the implementation of Project 2025. Now remember, we were huge supporters of Project 2025. Many of you who watch this podcast actually signed up for Project 2025, and some of you are actually working in the Trump administration because of Project 2025. The left demonized it because it was the first time in history Republicans actually had a battle plan for what they would do if we got back in power. And then Trump, in an election, had to deny that he had anything to do with it. But now, I told you, we're seeing the truth, okay? So Trump's meeting set to axe Democrat agencies. President Donald Trump said Thursday that he would hold discussions on which Democrat agencies should be cut amid the ongoing government shutdown. Trump said he would meet with Office of Budget and Management Director Russ Vought, who oversees the allocation of federal funds. The shutdown started on Wednesday after the Senate failed to pass a temporary government funding bill backed by Republicans. And then they tried to pass it again on Friday, and the Democrats voted no again. They want this shutdown. They think they're going to win, but they're not. Trump posted on Truth Social, I have a meeting today with Russ Vought, he of Project 2025 fame, to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are political scam, he recommends to be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They are not stupid people, so maybe this is their way of wanting to quietly and quickly make America great again. Trump's always trolling them. The meeting follows Trump's call Wednesday night for Republicans to take advantage of the shutdown as an opportunity to clear out dead wood, waste, and fraud. Billions of dollars can be saved. Vought has already moved to suspend or cancel billions of dollars of federal funding following the shutdown. He announced Tuesday that $8 billion in Green New scam funding spent on the left's climate agenda was being canceled. The terminated projects, and this is important, the terminated projects were mainly in blue states like California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. Pretty much all the blue states, they're getting big cuts. Following Vaught's announcement, the Department of Energy also said that it was terminating 321 financial awards worth $7.65 billion, supporting 223 different projects. The department said the projects were not economically viable and did not advance the nation's energy needs. Okay? So they're at it, and it's going to be epic, and there's going to be, hopefully, hundreds of thousands of federal government employees who are terminated permanently. Hopefully. We're going to keep watching, see what happens, but this went viral and took X and social media by storm. Many of you wrote to me about it, but this is what AI can do. Watch this song. It's really pretty cool. So Russ Vought is the Reaper, and he's coming for the Dems, and that's the truth. Russ Vought has been dreaming. This is his Super Bowl. This guy is a brilliant government strategist and economic whiz, and he has been thinking about what you would do to cut the government his whole life. This is to Russ Vought what being head of our health services is to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They've both been wanting this their whole lives, and the Democrats just handed it to them. It's unbelievable. And it's God working. I mean, it's just epic. So sit back, grab the popcorn, and watch, because I think a lot's going to happen while they keep playing this game. Now, again, the left is basically trying to pretend that, people are going to revolt and be against Trump for doing this. No indication of it at all. And then, they're on TV trying to claim that, this money's not going to fund, there was $1 trillion that they wanted for Medicare, was to fund health care for illegals. How many of you would reach into your wallet and take money out and give it to some illegal to say, I'm going to pay for your health care? I wouldn't. Go home. Get out. So to show you how off they are, okay, watch this. Fewer than 200 turned in to Hakeem Jeffries' live stream blaming Republicans for the shutdown. So get this. They're actually going to put all this crazy stuff together. We're going to shut it down. So at midnight, they're having a podcast to try to talk to their supporters about why the shutdown is important. House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries hosted a live stream in the hours before and after the federal government shutdown Wednesday morning, but fewer than 200 people tuned in as he and other Democrats tried to pin the blame on Republicans. Jeffries' live stream billed as Stop the Republican Shutdown drew only 156 viewers about 90 minutes before the shutdown began, according to a screenshot posted by journalist Ken Klippenstein. A second screenshot showed viewership shrinking to just 93, roughly 20 minutes after the shutdown took effect. Bernie Sanders had another live stream, and they said he had 1,000 people. 1,000. This podcast gets 10 times that. 15 times that every week. There's no energy on their side. So what is the reason? What is going on? And there's all kinds of dynamics. You've all heard Chuck Schumer is trying to hold on to his Senate seat because OAC is threatening to run against him. Okay? So he got destroyed for passing the big, beautiful bill. And now he's listening to the hard left and he's shutting down the government, even though there's all this video on the internet showing every Democrat you can name talking about how you should never shut down the government. It's a terrible thing. I had a post on X that said, once again, we have to remind the dumb Dems that there's this thing called the internet, where everything you ever said in the last 15 years can be found in minutes and brought back to show your hypocrisy and your lies. And it's all over. So no one's believing this. So the Democrats aren't doing this. And the Republicans sure as hell aren't shutting it down. So what's going on? The hard left, the communists, are shutting down the government because they want to stop the deportation of their illegal immigrant army, and they want to try to ruin the Trump economy before the 2026 election, right? So what you're going to see is our hot civil war is continuing. The violence is escalating. I told you last week, but there's other elements of this. So if this goes on for long enough, the Federal Reserve will say, well, we can't meet and decide the lower interest rates because we don't have the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, even though that data has demonstrably been cooked for the last 4 years. See what they're going to try to do? They're going to try to sabotage things. But Trump ain't going to let them, and Vaught's not going to let them, and ICE ain't stopping, kids. They're not stopping. They're hitting the gas pedal because these people, the people for ICE and in the military, they know they're going to get paid retroactively, okay? It's not like, they're working without a paycheck. Well, first of all, everybody got their paycheck on Wednesday, on the 1st, because the checks are already going out. So now there's like a 2-week period where everybody already got their checks. And then they're going to get back pay. People aren't in ICE for just the money. Yeah, the money's good, but they're in it on a mission. And that's why they have like 150,000 applicants for like 10,000 jobs, okay? So it's on, baby, and it's heating up. ICE arrests nearly 550 in Chicago area as part of Midway Blitz. Well, I got news for you. In the recent days, that's now 1,200, okay? Immigration enforcement officials have arrested almost 550 people as part of an operation in the Chicago area that launched a little less than 2 weeks ago. The updated figures come hours after senior immigration officials revealed in an interview with the Associated Press that more than 400 people have been arrested in the operation so far. Then it was 550, now it's 1,200. ICE launched its Chicago operation dubbed Midway Blitz on September 8th, drawing concern from activists and immigration communities who say there's been a noticeable uptick in immigration enforcement agents. All right, so this has started to really explode, and there is real violence going on outside the ICE facility in Chicago. And now, and again, remember, this isn't just paid Antifa and paid protesters. These are Democrat communists like the mayor and the police chief in Chicago who are fighting this. And the police chief said he was going to bring in heavy equipment to tear down the fence surrounding the ICE facility. Yeah, you know what happened next? Yeah, Trump brought in military vehicles. You ain't going to win this, but you can see what's happening. It's escalating, okay? And so we talked about Portland and sending troops to Portland. And so that is now heating up because Portland has just been a disaster. It is the heart of Antifa. And they've been rioting literally for 5 years. And the police are complicit, okay? So Trump authorizes deployment of troops to Portland, vows full force response. At the request of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, I am directing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists, Trump wrote on September 27th. I also authorize full force if necessary. He's not kidding around. But the left is trying to gaslight everyone by saying, and I had an interchange with someone close to me about, oh, Antifa is just an idea. It's just an idea. Oh yeah, well, let's talk about that. Okay, here's a post from a guy named Eric Doherty. He said, Stephen, let's see. Yeah, let me get to that. Okay, let me get to that. He said, Democrats love to scream that Antifa cannot be designated a terrorist organization because it is a noble idea rather than an organized movement. This is BS, and a fund that raises money for Antifa just tactically admitted it. The International Anti-Fascist Defense Fund has suddenly suspended its operations and indicated that, while it presently operates within the United States, it is going to move its operations overseas, asserting the president and his administration are fascist. But the greater point that ought to be hammered home is that Antifa must be a specific organized movement with a detailed funding structure, or the fund would not suddenly be in panic over the president's designation as a group as a terrorist entity. Okay? That's the fact. They are a terrorist entity. They're international. And Trump is now, and the FBI and Cash Patel and all those guys are going after them. All right? And so then in Portland, what happened is the police there arrested a conservative news person who was there to cover it instead of the Antifa people who beat him up. I'm not making this up. Attorney General Pam Bondi orders investigation into Portland police following Nick Sorter's arrest at an Antifa protest. Sorter, who was chronicling the unfolding Antifa violence in Portland, Oregon over the past weeks, was arrested on a misdemeanor charge of secondary disorderly conduct Thursday night, but has posted on X that the charge is bogus. Hey, Portland police, you made a big freaking mistake. You proved that we've all been saying for years. You're corrupt, and the Portland police are controlled by violent Antifa thugs who terrorize the streets. You thought arresting me would make me shut up and go away. You couldn't have been more wrong. Stay tuned. There is evidence that the Portland police have been arresting people that Antifa beats up and not arresting them. Pam Bondi and Harmy Dillon are now investigating the Portland Police Department, and Trump and Hegseth are sending military there, and they are now arresting these Antifa thugs. All right? The war is on. And then it's not just on in Chicago and in Portland. How about in Memphis? Stephen Miller in Memphis for the federal surge. This is Memphis. This is the United States of America. And all that bullshit is done. It's over. It's finished. The idea that there is a square inch of block in this city where a citizen doesn't feel safe is unacceptable. To the Memphis Police Department, to the officers that I see sitting in front of me, we are about to provide you with a level of support you cannot even imagine. He said, this isn't just a task force. This is an all-out government, unlimited support operation. ATF, DEA, FBI, ICE, Department of War, every resource we have. And we're not going to be sitting behind a desk at a keyboard. We are sending in real cops with guns and badges to go out with you on the street every single night to make arrests. Okay? And they're serious, man. They're not messing around, because we have to arrest these criminals who are the army that the left wants to use to create the riots to destabilize our nation. And the propaganda is already starting. You know, they're claiming in Chicago that the ICE is using, that they're using too much. They're not following the law. They're arresting children. They're using too much force. Don't buy it. This is war. And if you don't believe that Antifa is an organization and they're training for war, well, then here's this. Antifa hosts secretive training event in Philadelphia. All right? This is actually going to happen. Antifa activists are hosting a 3-day training event in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania this weekend, right now as I'm recording this podcast. All right, as the Trump administration designates the movement as a domestic terrorist threat. The event, known as the Philly Skillshare Convergence, is taking place Friday through Sunday at a secret location. Advertised within Antifa circles, the Convergence offers a series of workshops on street-level tactics, digital anonymity, and operational coordination. Well, if they're not an organization, how can they have operational coordination? Right? Isn't that defining that they're an organization? One session titled, "Don't Turn Yourself In, Be Fugitive," focuses on resisting state coercion and avoiding arrest. Other workshops include lessons on radio communications, encrypting online organization, and trying to be invisible. Promotional graphics feature a hammer and walkie-talkie, symbols commonly associated with Black Bloc Antifa militants. The organizers say the event is designed to strengthen collective capacities for organizing and attacking. Right? They're talking about how to attack. Attendees are required to request by an encrypted email service, Proton Mail. The flyer was first posted in Philly Anti-Capitalist Blog, a site that regularly publishes announcements and post-events reports from left-wing activists. A site which refers to Philadelphia as occupied, I don't even know what this word is, Lanapoking, hosts materials aimed at Antifa and anarchist groups. It includes a map of all Philadelphia Police Department stations and printable posters that declare the time to attack is always now. The time to attack, not to protest, not to say we're fighting for illegal rights or something. Their goal is the violent overthrow of the United States of America and the West. That's what this is. And if you don't understand that, and if someone you know doesn't understand it, you got to share these articles with them, which will be posted on our website for you to share. The blog encourages anonymous submissions using Tor browser and encrypted tools, but warns contributors not to share information that could aid investigations. Okay? We're at war. They're it. So this is why Trump is gearing up, why you're seeing military operations, the National Guard and the military, because Trump is not fooling around anymore. And so he declares, Trump notifies Congress of armed conflict against drug cartels. Pentagon officials informed members of Congress of developments after strikes were carried out and boats in the Caribbean. And they blew the heck out of another boat in the Caribbean that they say was full of drugs and drug runners. President Donald Trump said a mandatory legal notification to Congress following the second U.S. strike on drug smuggling vessels, declaring drug cartels to be unlawful combatants and saying the United States is now in a non-international armed conflict. The memo is a report mandated by federal law following an incident in which U.S. forces are involved in attacks or hostilities. So whenever the military and the U.S. government does something militarily, you have to file one of these reports. And so what then happened this week, and I mean, this is a direct ask to all of you. If you have not watched Pete Hegseth's address to over 800 generals and admirals and commanders and all this, you've got to watch this. Man, this is what you and I voted for. That is what you and I voted for, let me tell you. Because someone is finally saying what we need to say. Our military is there to kill people and break things, to win wars. We're not there to do social, reorganizing. We're not there to do political agendas. And Hegseth basically said, if you don't like it, then get out. Get out. It is inspirational. And I mean, I'm watching Hegseth, and you can kind of see in this picture, he's walking all around the stage. I don't think he had a teleprompter. This thing's like 46 minutes long. You can go and you can share it at our website, okay? There's a share link to everyone. Every American should watch this. Every network should air this in its entirety. This is one of the greatest speeches by a military leader in American history. I'm not kidding. If you haven't watched it, that's a direct ask for you guys to do, okay? That's just awesome. Now we're going to talk about, what the other side of the war, okay? What's Antifa and those guys doing? We just covered that. What are we doing? Well, this is good news. Turning Point USA, high school clubs have more than doubled. The sunshine is coming in on our screen. Turning Point USA announced that their high school, group has more than doubled the number of people, the number of high schools that have Turning Point organizations. Let's see here. The Turning Point USA high school program, known as Club America, and I didn't really know that, Club America, has more than doubled in size following the assassination of TPUSA founder Charlie Kirk. The number of chapters grew from about 1,200 to over 2,700 in just a few weeks. A surge TPUSA attributed to renewed enthusiasm for Kirk's vision of student-led conservative activism in schools. The announcement came during an episode of the Charlie Kirk Show, which is still being aired on the Salem News Network. They've got different people hosting it, and you can watch the video on Rumble every day at noon. Okay, so the show, the Charlie Kirk Show, is still going, now hosted by TPUSA spokesman Andrew Colvett. Joining him was Nick Coca, Enterprise Director of Club America, who said there are two types of high schools in this country: high schools that have Club America chapters and high schools that will soon have Club America chapters. Coca confirmed that more than 1,500 new chapters have launched since his murder. The group has reported receiving, get this, 120,000 total requests to start chapters, according to both high school and college campuses as of late September. Okay, so we've been talking about that this huge, explosion of people, and this was part of the whole thing. The superintendent, Oklahoma superintendent of public schools. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, Oklahoma superintendent of public instruction Ryan Walters announced Tuesday that every high school in the state of Oklahoma would be establishing a Turning Point USA chapter. A move, he said, designed to promote free speech, civic engagement, and honest discussion about America's history and values. Walters said the initiative comes in response to strong interest from parents, teachers, and students who want to see more opportunities for open dialogue in schools. I'm excited to announce today that every Oklahoma high school will have a Turning Point USA chapter. We have seen the outpouring from parents, teachers, and students that want to be engaged in meaningful work going on at Turning Point. They want their young people to be engaged in a process that understands free speech, open engagement, dialogue about American greatness, and a dialogue about American values. We're so excited to partner with Turning Point USA with this initiative. The superintendent said the program is intended to push back against the influence of what he called radical agendas in the classroom. For far too long, we have seen radical leftists with the teachers' union dominating classrooms and pushing woke indoctrination on our kids. And he's right. And so you got a whole state saying every school's going to have it. It's awful. It's just awesome. Not awful. It's awesome. And so it's happening. But the left is still pushing back. Turning Point was going to have an event at Utah State University. Okay. Utah State University building evacuated due to suspicious device, a Turning Point USA event this week. Authorities issued an emergency evacuation order at Utah State University in Logan, Utah on Tuesday after a suspicious device was found just hours before a Turning Point USA event was scheduled to take place on campus. Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk was supposed to speak at the event at Utah State before he was assassinated while speaking to students at Utah Valley University on September 10th. Utah State's a different school. The event is the first Turning Point USA has hosted in the state since the assassination. And basically, there was a bomb that the bomb spot, a video posted on social media by local news outlet KSL TV. Police are heard yelling "fire in the hole" before a loud explosion is heard. The building that was evacuated was not where the Turning Point event was set to take place. So what happened? Well, yeah, here's what happened. 6,000 people attended the event despite the bomb threat. 6,000 people. were there. That's one of the largest Turning Point college events ever. Okay? They don't use it. I mean, at the event where Charlie Kirk was shot, there were 3,000. This is double. There is a tremendous courage being shown by, Louder with Crowder is going to campuses, and he's offering $10,000 for college professors to come debate him about where the violence is coming, from the left or the right. And he's got armed guards, and he's wearing a bulletproof vest, but he's going on the campuses. We've got, Megyn Kelly and Youngkin were there. We got Ben Shapiro. And Tim Pool was on the Charlie Kirk show this week saying that he's constantly getting death threats. His home is being doxxed. People are coming after him. But we've got to now talk about it and support the people who have the courage to fight back. And we need to arrest the people. We need to arrest the left who is threatening violence. That's the only way to stop it. But the war is real. And there's videos on X this week about a guy wearing a Charlie Kirk shirt getting into a fist fight with an Antifa guy. And these are like 50, 60-year-old men fist fighting. And the Charlie Kirk guy knocks out the Antifa guy. Okay? But because, the Antifa people are cowards. They will only attack you like wolves in a pack. They don't want to fight you one-on-one. Okay? Because they know they'll get beat. They're wusses. They're just sick people, as we like to say. So anyway, despite the bomb threats, it keeps going on. And I posted this from last week's show as a separate video to help you. The real Charlie Kirk effect will be Christians voting. And so this video, it's only like 7 minutes long, is a separate video at WeThePeopleConvention.org, and I'm asking you to share it with anyone you know who's a Christian. And then on that page, I list the statistics I gave you last week about why Christians have to vote. Because 30% of Christians aren't even registered, and 44% of them don't vote. If they vote, it's game, set, match. Satan is defeated. Please go to WeThePeopleConvention.org and share this video with anyone you know who's a Christian so they can get the information they need. All right? All right. So now we're going to go into some other news because Trump has been saying, we're being ripped off by the drug companies, and we're going to force them to give us the best prices in the country. So he had a press conference with the Pfizer CEO. Trump announces deal with Pfizer to lower drug prices, unveils Trump RX with a website. All right. So here's a story on that. President Donald Trump announced a deal with Pfizer for the drug maker to voluntarily sell medications through Medicaid at lower prices as his administration pushes to bring down prices in the United States to match prices in other countries. The White House also said it plans to unveil a new website dubbed Trump RX to allow direct-to-consumer sales of drugs. I was not too happy with that. Trump, in a September 30th announcement for the Oval Office, said all new Pfizer medications introduced to the U.S. market will be sold at prices that are no greater than those of comparable countries. The agreement follows an executive order Trump signed in March that instituted a most favored nation policy for drug pricing. We will be paying essentially what other countries were paying, Trump said, adding that he was working with other major pharmaceutical companies to reach similar agreements. By taking this bold step, we're ending the era of global price gouging at the expense of American families and are making America healthy again. Pfizer is prepared to invest $70 billion in U.S. manufacturing and research over the coming years. In exchange, the Trump administration agreed to a 3-year grace period in which Pfizer will not be subjected to Trump's tariffs on pharmaceutical products. So what happened? Here's Pfizer, who is behind the COVID vaccine. The CEO is in the Oval Office with Trump. He should be in prison, okay, for bribing every politician on the planet and for killing people and lying about the COVID drugs. And he's in the White House getting a deal, and the Pfizer stock went up. I'm not happy. And I'm not happy that we are now, the Trump RX website is expected to be operated in early 2026, according to a senior Trump administration official. A statement from Pfizer said the domain will be trumprx.gov. Consumers will be able to type in the name of a drug they want to purchase at the website, which will then redirect them to a site where they can buy the drug from the manufacturer at discounted prices. Okay, Donald Trump can't put his name on something like that. This Trump RX makes it look like he is personally profiting. The left is just beating that drum, and it's causing real concerns. You don't need to do Trump RX. That's just not right. And I hope all of you will go to whitehouse.gov in the comments and tell President Trump, no, call it Maha RX or something like that. Make America healthy again .rx. But this idea of putting the Trump name on it, I think it detracts from it. And it doesn't help our cause. So yes, I want most favored nation for drugs. We have been getting ripped off. And I appreciate the president negotiating that. But this isn't the way to do it. And giving Pfizer any more help when they're a bunch of criminals is wrong. I don't know. If I'm wrong on that, write to me, okay, at Tom Z, WeThePeopleConvention.org. Tom Z, WeThePeopleConvention.org, and say, hey, you're wrong about that. But I don't know if you feel the same way I do, but we didn't need to do that. That was not good. This is probably good. I haven't covered the New York mayor's race much because, I just don't want to get into it because it's such a scam. But Eric Adams dropped out of New York City's mayoral race. And this is important because the commie Mandami, who's leading in New York, in the election, the whole deal is that there's 4 people running, and if they don't drop out and just make it 2, he's probably going to win. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, he's the mayor right now, dropped out of this year's mayoral race on September 28th, citing mounting pressure that makes it difficult to continue his campaign. Adams, a Democrat, made the announcement in a video statement posted on X in which he warned that extremism is growing in politics and indicated that he lacked the funds to remain in the race. Adams' announcements follows weeks of back and forth over whether he would drop out. He has been polling in 4th place behind Democrat frontrunner Zohan Mandami. He's not a Democrat. He's a Muslim Marxist. Democrat former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's was thrown out of office for his criminal activity during COVID, and Republican nominee Curtis Sweela, who is a good guy but has really no chance to win. Mandami leads in the latest polls with 43% to 47% of support, followed by Cuomo with 23 to 29%, Sweela with 9 to 17%, and Adams trailing with less than 10%. Okay? Whether this will make a difference, I don't know. I think Mandami, has got some vulnerability because if he wins, and he's already talking about spending hundreds of millions of dollars on illegal immigrants and attacking the rich. He talked, and then he withdrew. He talked about taxing the white neighborhoods, right? Oh, no, he's not a racist. Where's the left saying racist when he says that? No, I guess not, huh? Guess not. So we'll see what happens. It is not good. I'm not one of these people that says, oh, yeah, let the commies run New York City, one of the biggest cities in the world with all the financial resources they have. Let them run that, and then they'll see how bad it is. I think Mandami should be deported. I think he lied on his immigration papers. I think he's a threat. He should be deported. But that's just me. That's just me. I don't know. We'll see. And then another Trump thing that's kind of interesting. I talked to you last week about YouTube. Google wrote to Jim Jordan in the House and said, we admit it. We unfairly censored conservatives who, didn't violate our policies because the Biden White House, bullied us. And I said, we do not accept your apology. Where's our money? Hundreds of millions of dollars were lost by, by Clay and Buck with their Outkick thing and Dan Bongino and Ben Shapiro and all these other people when they got thrown off during COVID. And I said, where's our restitution? Well, then what comes out this week? YouTube to pay $24.5 million to settle lawsuit with Trump. Okay? So now we don't have anywhere to go to get our money, but Google pays Donald Trump personally $24.5 million. YouTube agreed to pay $20.5 million to President Trump to settle a lawsuit over suspending his account in 2021, according to documents filed in court on September 29th. The social media website owned by Alphabet put Trump's YouTube account on hold following the security breach at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2001. Trump also sued Alphabet-owned Google, Facebook parent Meta, and X, then known as Twitter, arguing that they all illegally suppressed conservative viewpoints. Meta and X agreed earlier this year to settle their respective lawsuits against them. Trump had announced a lawsuit in July of 2021 after the three social media platforms suspended his account 6 months before over his comments related to the January 6th incident. Trump said at the time he was taking legal action to protect the First Amendment-based rights to free speech, adding his rights were denied when the three platforms banned him. That's true. They were, but so were so many others. Well, there were others in this lawsuit. In the YouTube settlement, $22 million will be sent on Trump's behalf to the Trust for the National Mall, a nonprofit that is building the $200 million ballroom at the White House and some other things. The balance of the settlement will be sent to other plaintiffs in the lawsuit, including the American Conservative Union, which runs the annual Conservative Action PAC, CPAC. Plus, other plaintiffs who receive payouts are Andrew Bagliani, Austin Fletcher, Marcy Veronica, Frank Valentine, Kelly Victory, and Naomi Wolf, which I was glad to see, according to the notice of settlement filed in the U.S. District Court of Northern District of California, Oakland Division. So some other people got, of the 25 million, they got 3 million. So I'm happy to see that. But where do the rest of us go? Where do the rest of us go? Just a little concerning. Okay? So I'm going to wrap up the first half of the podcast with that. The war is on, and I ask you to share some things like the Pete Hegseth video, man. You got to watch that. And there's going to be more in the second half where you can do things to protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. Okay? But we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back to the second half of the podcast. You've been listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion Podcast, and my name is Tom Zawistowski. The We the People Convention News and Opinion radio program is paid for by donors like you. You can donate to the We the People Convention and support our cause by going to wethepeopleconvention.org or by sending your check in any amount to We the People Convention, P.O. Box 6211, Akron, Ohio, 44312. When you're playing a video, including our podcast, you'll see this little cloud button. And if you click it, it'll actually download the video to your hard disk. And this works on our podcast page as well. If you're playing our podcast, and it's going to be loud, so I won't play it for much, but there's our podcast playing, and you can see this little, download button. Okay. The other thing you got to notice on our podcast page is that there's a link here where you can send me a message about this podcast. Hey, it was great. Hey, I didn't like it. Something was wrong, or here's a correction, that kind of thing. You can use that link. And then these are the stories that I covered in this particular podcast. And you'll see there's links that go to the stories, to the articles that I used in reporting on that. So you can click on that. You'll also see that you can sign up for our emails and text messages, but you can also watch our podcast on Roku TV and on Amazon Fire TV. And these are the instructions for doing that. So this is all on our podcast page, right on the front page where the yellow button was. So if you click there, this is our podcast page. These are the instructions for watching on Roku TV or Amazon Fire. And I watch our podcast on TV. It just feels more comfortable. So you can do that. We're also on Rumble. If you go to Rumble, you should join Rumble.
And, it's Tom Z at WTPC. You'll see our podcast there. So you can get us a lot of different ways, including on Apple iTunes. And then this is an audio version of our podcast. If you click here, it'll just play the audio of the podcast. It will not, show you the video. So people can, listen to that while they're jogging or, working out, working in the yard, or just relaxing and just want to listen to the audio and not watch the video. And again, this is available on phone, on your iPad, on your laptop, on your computer, any way you want. And you can share this, whatever you see. If you're on a page that you really like, and you see an article that you think, geez, I've got to share this article, with someone in my family. You can send them an email by clicking on the little envelope. You can post it on Parler or MeWe. And if you click on this, you get all kinds of options, where you can put it on Twitter or Facebook, whatever, which we don't support, but you can do whatever you want. So we ask that you share what you see on our We the People Convention site, and that you get more people to look at it, because that's the whole idea here, to help educate people, inform them. And then, as I said before, Link, we're not just about talk, we're about action. And in my podcast every week, which is published every Saturday, so if the new podcast usually comes out every Saturday, and in that podcast, I will ask you to do certain things that will help protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. So that's the We the People Convention website. Come back often, use it to be informed, and share it with others. Thanks a lot.
All right. We're glad you're back with us for the second half of our podcast. We hope you enjoyed the first half. Remember that we have our chapters player on our podcast page at wethepeopleconvention.org. And that chapters player usually is there by Sunday morning, and it has you can just go through the list of all of our topics in the show, and just click on the link and it'll take you right to the video for that. And then there's a link next to it that you can copy and email it or text it to a friend or relative about that topic. It'll start them right in our podcast at that topic. Okay. I also, want you to know that, we're on X, and I post Tom Z WTPC. Tom Z WTPC. That's where I post daily when things are breaking, because man, things are just crazy in the time of Trump. Okay. And so I'm trying to keep you up on what's going on. Also, you should be getting our texts or emails. Go to wethepeopleconvention.org, right on the front page, and there's a thing that says enter your phone number and your email to get our messages, because things are happening, and sometimes you and I need to take immediate action. Literally, we have to call the president, we have to call our congressman, we have to do things, even go to an event, or help support some people who are out in this community, at a meeting or something. So sign up for all that, okay? We got a little bit shorter podcast this week, which I'm very happy about, and I think probably you are as well. But in the second half, we usually talk first about foreign affairs, and there's some big things going on. Okay, so at the beginning of the week, Israel agrees to U.S. plan for eternal peace in the Middle East at White House. So I thought that was a pretty aggressive, statement. But what Trump is, again, Trump doesn't want to just, have a ceasefire and keep things going for years and years there. We're sick of it. We're sick of it. We have to fix the Hamas problem. And what that means is you got to demilitarize them. Okay? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to a U.S.-backed plan to end the war in Gaza and establish a credible pathway to a Palestinian state. The White House rolled out the plan shortly before President Donald Trump appeared with Netanyahu for a joint press conference at the White House. Trump announced that Israel has agreed to a 20-point framework, which the president said would deliver peace in the Middle East during his opening remarks. Today is a historic day for peace, and President Netanyahu and I have just concluded an important meeting on many vital issues, including Iran, trade, expansion of the Abraham Accords, and most importantly, we discuss how to end the war in Gaza. I also want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for agreeing to the plan and for trusting that if we work together, we can bring an end to the death and destruction that we've seen for so many years. Trump said a number of Arab nations have also agreed to the outline, including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Turkey, Egypt, and others. Okay? Under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed to demilitarize Gaza and decommission the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terrorist organizations, to do that immediately, and we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. I'm hearing that Hamas wants this done. So, okay, what's the deal is you can't have Hamas on the border of Israel when Iran is funding them and their only goal is to destroy Israel. So now that Israel has been fighting this war since October 7th, 2 years ago, that Hamas is militarily significantly weakened. What Trump and the Arab countries are saying is, we're willing to fund the Palestinian people, if there is such a thing, I don't believe they are, the Arab people in the area of Palestine to have a civilian government that's not funded by Iran. Okay? And they've even talking about Tony Blair from England, like being like MacArthur was in Japan after World War II, where Tony Blair would oversee this and Trump would be part of overseeing this. And that they would actually make a society there that isn't hostile to Israel. What a concept. Well, maybe some progress, because here's what happened just the other day, or just yesterday, report Hamas responds to Trump agrees to release all hostages. Now, that's not the whole deal, but it's a start. Al Jazeera reported Friday that Hamas delivered its response to President Donald Trump's peace plan hours after the president gave the terror group a deadline of 6 p.m. Sunday or else face total destruction. Trump was not going to wait. We need to know what you're going to do. The Palestinian group says that in order to end Israel's war in Gaza and a complete withdrawal of Israel's forces from there, it is ready to release all Israeli captives, both of those who are living and dead, according to an exchange plan outlined in Trump's proposal. In this context, the movement affirms its readiness to immediately enter into negotiations through the mediators to discuss the details of this agreement. It also said it agrees to hand over the administration of Gaza to an independent body of Palestinian technocrats based on Palestinian national consensus and Arab Islamic support. So they're kind of saying, yeah, we're in for this new government, okay? The response did not apparently include an agreement to disarm, which is a core Israeli and American demand. However, the prospects of releasing all the hostages, if real, would create real pressure for a compromise. It's possible a deal could be struck on or around the second anniversary of the Hamas terror attack of October 7th, which is just days away, okay? Is it going to happen? Wow. If Trump pulls that off, like I said, he doesn't want war. He wants peace. But he's willing to have peace through strength. And he said, you either agree or we're going to support Israel wiping you out. Okay? Just like he's now telling Zelensky, we're going to give you this technical support you need to attack the Russia itself, Russian mainland. He understands the whole concept of peace through strength. And if you watch the Hegseth video, you'll see that real clearly. This is what makes Trump just so effective. And so, that's good. Now, this poll came out this week, and I think this is part of the factor involved with this as well. Majority of Americans disapprove of U.S.-Israeli military alliance, new poll shows. A Quinnipiac University survey found 60% of voters disapprove of U.S. sending military aid to Israel, while 32% support additional aid, the highest level of opposition and lowest level of support in for the U.S. military alliance with Israel in the history of the poll. Democrats and independent voters largely oppose Israel's military actions, with 75% of Democrats and 66% of independents said they were against more spending to provide additional military aid to Israel, while 56% of Republicans supported additional spending. Even that figure is low, okay? So, the waning support for Israel brings a new urgency around the White House's effort to bring an end to the Israeli-Hamas war. The president and top advisors had a meeting on Wednesday to strategize about the plans for Gaza to end the conflict. And that's exactly right. We got to quit spending our tax dollars when we've got $37 trillion in debt, $2 trillion a year in overspending, deficit spending. And we're spending billions of dollars all over the globe to fight other people's battles. Israel's a prosperous country. They don't need us to do that. And I'll tell you, it certainly is in stark contrast to this story. And this is really upsetting to me. Jihadists have massacred over 7,000 Nigerian Christians this year. Now, the whole Israel-Hamas thing was over 1,700 or so Israelis were killed in 2023 on October 7th. And that's terrible. And it was horrible. And they were right to fight about that. But who's fighting about this? Who's protecting Christians? Well, apparently nobody. Let's see here. A report from the International Society for Civil Liberties and the Rule of Law has revealed that a staggering 100 churches are destroyed each month in Nigeria, with a minimum of 7,887 Nigerian Christians murdered in the first 220 days of 2025, an average of 32 Christians murdered per day. Inter-Society Reports, that's the name of the group that released this, notes that a total of 19,100 churches have been attacked since 2009, when the jihadist Boko Haram group began its violent campaign against Christians. Amika Ungablasi, chairman of this group, emphasized the dire situation for Christians in Nigeria, saying that without urgent action, Christianity would disappear from the country within the next few years. Where's the Pope? Where is the Catholic Pope demanding that the UN send troops? He wants to interfere with everything else, but here's Christians being systemically slaughtered. Nothing. And yet, all I see on my TV is appeals for Christians in the U.S. to give money to Israel, right? To help, starving Jews in Ukraine. Why aren't we helping Christians in Nigeria? Because they're black, maybe? Is that it? It's certainly worth questioning to me. Now, I know President Trump has made some statements, but I want him to focus on this. And maybe that's an ask. Maybe you all should go to whitehouse.gov in the comments section and write to President Trump and say, you need to do something about what's happening in Nigeria. Boko Haram has been around since Obama. And they're jihadists that were killing Christians in Syria and other places. They need to be wiped off the frickin' face of the earth. Okay? We can't allow that, we're going to defend Jews, but we're not going to defend Christians. We're a Christian nation. Anyway, you're not getting any headlines of that. You didn't see that story hardly anywhere. You saw it here. The actual article will be linked on our podcast page, and I'm asking you to take action to protect Christians. Why? We talked about it. Last week, we talked about how our form of government can't exist without a Christian and moral people governing themselves. Anyway, and then this was an important story because this is something that's really concerning to me. FBI slashes ties with ADL, which categorized Tea Party USA as extremist. Well, what's this about? Well, the Federal Bureau of Investigation cut decades-long ties with the Anti-Defamation League Wednesday following the group's inclusion of Turning Point USA in its Center on Extremism. This is Kash Patel saying this, James Comey disgraced the FBI by writing love letters to the ADL and embedded agents with an extreme group functioning like a terrorist organization and the disgraceful operations they ran spying on Americans. FBI Director Kash Patel told Fox News Digital, this was not law enforcement. It was activism dressed up as counterterrorism, and it put Americans in danger. That era is finished. The FBI formally rejects Comey's policies and any partnership with the ADL, Patel continued. Comey said in 2017 that the ADL was not only educating the FBI, but also working with the Bureau to build bridges to communities they serve, the outlet reported. This follows ADL's classification of Charlie Kirk's conservative movement, TPUSA, whose founder was assassinated in September, as an extremist group. The ADL classified TPA as having links to a range of right-wing extremists and generates support from anti-Muslim bigots, anti-light activists, and some corners of white supremacists, alt-right, according to Fox. Us. The Tea Party USA was affiliated with us, and that's why the Anti-Defamation League, who's supposed to be protecting against anti-Semitism, was actually working against you and I. The ADL needs to be disbanded. Anybody who's giving money to them needs to stop right now. These people are anti-American. Even though they hide to be pro-Israel, they're also anti-American. The other anti-American group that the FBI went after this week is the SPLC, which they call the partisan smear machine. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, under Director Kash Patel, has officially ended its relationship with the Southern Poverty Law Center. Patel criticized the SPLC for straying from its civil rights mission, saying the SPLC long ago abandoned civil rights work and turned into a partisan smear machine. Patel particularly stressed the SPLC's hate map, which listed Turning Point USA, conservative youth organization, as a right-wing terrorist group. This group has been used by the Biden administration and then the FBI. This disgraceful record makes them unfit for any FBI partnership. They had been literally training FBI people. This left-wing, anti-Christian, anti-American, anti-MAGA group, which was originally formed to protect blacks against discrimination, the Southern Poverty Law Center in the South, long ago moved from that to go woke and to just go after anyone that opposed the communist takeover of the United States. They need to be investigated. And oh, by the way, all their money was moved offshore. So that's how you know who they are. So thank God the FBI is not using them to train agents to what? To attack you and me. That's what they were training agents to do. It's disgusting, man. It's disgusting. Okay, let's see here. Our friend Ralph in Canton, Ohio, sent this to me. Maine woman discovers hundreds of election ballots in Amazon packages as state considers voter ID law. You gotta love this, okay? You just gotta love this. A Newburgh resident expecting an Amazon delivery of rice, paper plates, and toy lightsabers instead of open a box to find 250 state election ballots. The discovery raised alarms about election security, leading the Maine's Republican Party chairman to call for a federal criminal investigation, as the state is mere weeks from deciding on whether it will join 36 other states requiring some form of voter ID. Let's see here. The resident was stunned by the here's a picture of the ballots that came in the box, okay? He immediately turned the ballots over to the town office. I'm greatly concerned for our state and its voting requirements, he said. The missed delivery comes just 35 days before Maine's November 4th election, which features a high-stake referendum on requiring voter identification. The initiative, Question 1, has divided state politics, with Democrats warning it could shrink their vote totals and Republicans insisting it would bolster election integrity. 36 other states, as well as virtually every other nation in the European Union, have some form of voter ID, but Maine doesn't. Yet Maine Democratic Party Chairman Charlie Dingman has frequently downplayed the need for election integrity measures and threatened that if Yes on One effort succeeds, Democrats could lose as many as 13,000 votes in future statewide elections. Well, if they're legal votes, how could you lose them, right? Again, they're just so stupid. They just make the case for us. So yeah, you guys in Maine, our members in Maine, we have members in all 50 states. You got to share that story, and you got to get people to turn out and vote for that. Because you got to have voter ID, because the Democrats have already told you they got at least 13,000 people who shouldn't be able to vote voting in your elections. I think you'd want to stop that. And the left just keeps fighting us with LawFare, but now it's called Barfare. Okay, so LawFare is when they went after all of the Trump people and their lawyers, with phony legal cases. But now they're using their bar association, the Lawyers Bar Association, to disbar everybody who helps Republicans or Trump who's a lawyer. When Jeffrey Clark was tapped to lead the second Trump administration's chief regulatory review office, it marked an astonishing redemption. For years, congressional investigations and prosecutors had pursued the former Department of Justice official primarily over an unsent letter he drafted in support of President Trump's 2020 election challenge, calling for Georgia to consider launching a last-minute legislative session to review the results. All he did is he represented Donald Trump in Georgia to say, there's something wrong with your election. You need to have a legislative session to reconsider it. Oh, they're going to disbar him for that, right? They're going to disbar him for that. Even as President Trump's, Trump's return to power has not ended Clark's troubles. Washington, D.C.'s legal disciplinary authority has recommended he be disbarred over his conduct from 5 years ago. Lawyers for Clark claim that the efforts seek to punish thought crimes regarding their client's belief in potential irregularities in an election that authorities declared devoid of widespread fraud. Since 2020, Democratic officials and progressive groups established specifically to target conservatives have lodged bar complaints against dozens of Trump-allied attorneys such as Clark, while supporters of these efforts say they are trying to hold office-holders and advocates accountable for actions they betrayed the canons of ethical legal practices. Conservative opponents say the push to punish these political foes via bar complaints often brought in politically partisan jurisdictions. So if you recall, Trump right after he got inaugurated, got sworn in January or February, he said they're looking into the nonprofit status of the bar groups around the nation. And I hope this will turbocharge them to basically put these bar associations out of business. The fact that they can decide who has a right to practice the law when they're so partisan doesn't make any sense to me. So hopefully this will bring some attention. Because guess what, folks? That flag that you so much defend is about what? Equal justice under the law. How can you and I have equal justice if we can't even hire a damn lawyer? In our 16 years in the Tea Party movement, when the first time with the Portage County Tea Party, we were going on buses to Washington. I'm a businessman. I understand there's liability when we're taking 7 buses to Washington, and if there's a crash, I could personally be sued. So we did what? We're going to incorporate, right? 5 lawyers wouldn't do it. They were threatened that if they helped us, they would lose business. 16 years later, there's only 2 attorneys in the state of Ohio that I can even have a conversation with, let alone get us to represent us for something. That's the fact. We've got to fix this. That's not a nation that is ruled by law and not men. You have to have legal representation. So this bar thing affects you and me and is important for you to share with others. We got to fight this. And then this story came out, and more is going to come out because January 6th is just starting to come on, right? We got the Russia stuff coming out. We've indicted Jim Comey. There's going to be other people. But man, January 6th is on the docket, folks. So Just the News put out a story. FBI lab report contradictory witness statements inject fresh mystery to the unsolved January 6th pipe bomb case. Well, it's not a mystery to you and I. We know that the government of the United States, the FBI, DOJ, CIA, whoever, planted these phony bombs to create the Fedsurrection. That's the truth, okay? But now their story's starting to just completely come apart. The unsolved case of 2 pipe bombs planted at the major political party's headquarters in Washington, D.C., right before the January 6th Capitol riot, is facing new mystery after Kash Patel transmitted to Congress the lab analysis and interviews with a key witness who is challenging the official timeline. The documents obtained by Just the News show that the bombs, one planted at the Democratic National Committee and the other at the Republican National Committee, were filled with chemical building blocks of black powder. Each was equipped with a 60-minute kitchen timer, and each had destructive potential. But most notably, the FBI laboratory report never used the word viable to describe either bomb. Both devices never exploded and were discovered about 16 hours after the FBI claimed they were planted outside both major party headquarters. When properly assembled and initiated, an IED of this sort can cause property damage, the lab report said. The report offered no clear explanation why the bombs, which are called improvised explosive devices, did not detonate. Well, a whistleblower who's an expert in bomb technology said that the way that those materials were put in the bomb, it could have never detonated. And then they have a 60-minute kitchen timer, but they said the bombs were planted the night before. It's all BS. It was, again, the Fedsurrection. And we're going to learn this because when they were going to draw police from the Capitol because of the potential bomb, that was going to be your CNN news story. Bombs go off or bombs are planted at, the DNC. And remember, Kamala Harris just happened to be there. But they never talk about it. Kamala Harris never once said, oh, I was where they had a bomb. I was in danger. She knows she wasn't in danger. It's all going to be seen, folks. We're going to rewrite the history books because we won last year, and that's part of what we have to do. All right, we got a couple of really fun stories to wrap up the podcast that I think you're going to really like. This one is interesting. Musk unveils Grokipedia plans to counter Wikipedia's manipulation of truth controlled by leftists. You and I have always known that Wikipedia was trash. As soon as I got involved with the Tea Party movement, the left went on Wikipedia and just put all kinds of hateful things about me on there. And when I tried to go correct it, because you're supposed to be able to moderate that, right? The people using Wikipedia are supposed to have a say. Oh, no, you couldn't moderate that. And they did that to every single conservative on there. It's trash. And yet people like Gordon Peterson and millions, billions of people around the world think it's honest and it's the truth. It's not. Wikipedia, launched in 2001, has grown into the 7th most visited website globally, boasting over 64 million pages, 7 million articles across 329 languages, and attracting more than 4 billion visits each month. Officially, Wikipedia operates under policies of variability and neutrality, but in practice, the world's largest online encyclopedia has been hijacked by left-wing activists who manipulate narratives and silence dissenting viewpoints. The danger is no longer confined to everyday readers seeking truth, as today's leading AI models are being trained on this biased garbage. Every AI model is reading all 64 million pages on Wikipedia to help give you the wrong answers when you make an inquiry. Given this backdrop and Musk's stated pursuit of truth to advance civilization, he revealed Tuesday that his team at XAI will soon roll out a rival online encyclopedia integrated with a Grok chatbot called Grokipedia. We're building Grokipedia XAI. It will be a massive improvement over Wikipedia. Frankly, it's a necessary step towards our goal of understanding the universe, Musk wrote on X. Musk's announcement was prompted by a post from former White House crypto czar David Sachs, who shared a Tucker Carlson interview with Wikipedia co-founder Larry Sanger. In the interview, Sanger warned that left-wing activists had corrupted Wikipedia and seized control of its ability to shape the narratives with toxic leftist tilt. I did watch that interview between Tucker and the guy who founded Wikipedia. And it's terrible. It's damning. Sachs wrote on X, Wikipedia is hopelessly biased. An army of left-wing activists maintains the bios and fight reasonable corrections. Magnifying the problem, Wikipedia often appears first in Google search results and now as a trusted source for AI model training. This is a huge problem. How biased is Wikipedia? Well, the website's so-called reliable source page is stacked with some of the worst offenders in manipulating the truth. The very reason the majority of Americans have lost faith in corporate, information. From fabricating the Trump-Russia connection to covering up COVID's origins to dismissing the Hunter Biden laptop story to gaslighting over former President Biden's mental acuity, the 24/7 web of lies propped up by legacy media, intelligence agencies, deep state and their puppet politicians, billionaire-funded fact-checkers, and dark money-funded NGOs makes one thing clear. The establishment's ability to maintain control of the dominant narrative has eroded, indicating that this power is up for grabs. Hopefully, with Musk doing for the Wikipedia what he did for social media with X, will help turn this. But it's a real problem, folks. I'm concerned that how do you make the AI tell the truth, or at least provide both sides? I haven't seen an AI yet that's been successful at doing that, though Musk says they're trying to do that. So I don't know. It's just crazy. It's just crazy that this is out there, and how do we fix it? I don't know. And of course, because of this story will make all the sense to you. No surprise to you guys. Trust in media plummets to another historic low. How low can you frickin' go, right? Well, a new Gallup survey reveals that trust in mass media among Americans has reached a historic low for the third consecutive year. Only 20% of Americans express a great deal or fair amount of trust in the media, a significant drop from 68% in 1972. The survey highlights a notable decline in trust among both Democrats and Republicans, with 90% point drop among Democrats and a 6-point drop among Republicans over the past 3 years. This decline is part of a broader trend of decreasing trust in civic institutions, with media being the least trusted of all civic institutions. A significant shift also has been observed in the Republican camp, where the share of those expressing no trust at all in the media has surged from less than 30% in 2015 to 62%. So 62% of us have no trust at all in the media. And I think that's earned. You literally see it. They're literally lying right to your face. Okay? And on CNN, Scott Jennings is just pointing it out to them. They literally lie. And he goes, that's just a lie. And you can see it with your own eyes and ears. And there's a smidgen of research. And like I said, use the internet to prove them wrong. And so, it was great that there were videos I almost grabbed for the podcast of this Democratic congressman saying, nobody in the Democratic Party wants to fund health care for illegal immigrants. And the Fox News guy goes, wait a minute, I got this video clip from the primary a few years back. They asked the question, how many of you here, raise your hand, support giving free health care to illegal immigrants? And every single Democrat raised their hand. And so he confronts her with it right on TV. Okay? So here's our problem. Who can you trust? Where do you get your news? Where do we share the same narrative? Now, again, I know you're watching this podcast because you trust us, and we work hard on that. And if we're wrong about anything, call us out. We don't want to be wrong about anything. We need to tell the truth. That's what Charlie Kirk talked about all the time. You can't lie to yourself, particularly to your spouse, to your kids, to your church members, to your community, to people at work. You can't lie. That's no way to live. But where do you go for the truth? It's becoming harder and harder. And so that's why you're looking for trusted sources, and we try to share them here on this podcast. On our podcast page, you can see the stories that are in it, and we link to the articles. And I think most of those people can be trusted. Anyway, that's a real question for our time. I thought this was great news. Big, beautiful bill strikes again because it's off our radar because all this other stuff is going on. Trump plans to build 10 miles of new border wall near San Diego port of entry. I think that's great. And you can see, there's a picture of it there. Let me see if I can make this pictured a little better. Well, anyway, the Trump administration plans to construct nearly 10 miles of new wall system along San Diego, Mexico border, waiving certain environmental laws and regulations that do so. U.S. Homeland Security head Kristi Noem issued a waiver to ensure the expeditious construction of barriers and roads. The project involves the construction of new barriers near Tecate and Alta Mesa ports of entry, as well as miles of improved infrastructure such as roads, lighting, and cameras along the existing barriers of the Pacific Ocean. It's got to be done. He said he would close the border. He's doing it. And that big, beautiful bill, which now you don't talk about so much, I wanted to show you that $46 billion was for this purpose. And they're doing it. It's awesome. This is also kind of awesome. If you're a kid like me who grew up in the 60s following the space program and our voyage to the moon, and like, why haven't we been back? Well, Trump administration plans Moon Village by 2035. A moon village. So listen to this. Secretary of Transportation and NASA Administrator Sean Duffy has announced plans to establish a permanent presence on the moon by 2035. Speaking at the International Aeronautics Congress in Sydney, Australia, Duffy said, "We are going to have sustained human life on the moon, just not an outpost, but a village. The initiative will be driven by the Artemis program, which is set to return humans to the lunar surface for the first time since the Apollo era. Artemis 2, scheduled on February 2026, will test both the Space Launch System rocket and the Orion spacecraft in a crewed mission around the moon. The follow-up, Artemis 3, targeted in 2027, lunar landing. Unlike previous missions, astronauts will remain on the moon for a full week, gathering critical data to support long-term habitation. The sustained operation during the moon's 14-day night, when solar power is unavailable, NASA plans to deploy a compact nuclear reactor. The fission surface power system, as it's called, must weigh under 15 tons and produce 100 kilowatts of electricity, enough to support life support systems, equipment, and communications infrastructure. NASA is currently seeking industry partners to help develop the reactor. Construction of the base itself may rely heavily on lunar resources. NASA is exploring ways to mix lunar soil with binding agents to create a form of cement, which can be used with 3D printing technologies to build structures on the site. These methods are not only intended for the moon, but may also play a role in future Mars missions requiring long-term human presence. We are going back to the moon, and this time, when we plant our flag, we stay, Duffy said. He framed the effort as part of a new space race with the United States aiming to stay ahead of rivals such as China and space exploration and technology. Boy, I hope it happens. I know that there's financial incentives. There's things on the moon that would help us here on the Earth, okay? And the technology is certainly there now because of SpaceX and Elon Musk. So we'll see what happens, but it's great, again, to see America aspirational and looking forward instead of just looking inward and crumbling. All right. Now, this story, I'm getting close to the end, but this is a big story, and it's the part that everyone is missing about the tariffs. Okay. It's all about, the tariffs on people who want to sell things in the United States. But the other part, every deal that Trump announced has the foreign countries like Japan and Europe opening up to U.S. companies to sell our products there. So look at this. U.S. firms secure $170 billion in record 98 deals with global governments under Trump. Wow. President Donald Trump's tariff policies are revitalizing U.S. exports, right? With American businesses signing 98 contracts valued at $170 billion with foreign government buyers during the first 9 months of the Trump administration. According to the Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration, the figures far surpass the $12 billion in contracts signed during the same period in 2021. $12 billion to 170 billion? Yeah, how big is that? That's massive. Notably, the contracts with foreign government buyers are forecasted to support 589,000 American jobs and create 144 billion worth of made in America U.S. exports. The record-breaking U.S. business wins under President Trump's leadership reflect an unwavering commitment to rebuild U.S. industry for the American worker, said Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. With record business deals abroad, America is strong again, and together with American workers, President Trump is transforming the U.S. economy, rebalancing our global trade, and restoring America's place in the world. Guys, this is what I told you. The Trump tariff plan, which gets so much criticism, is rebuilding our middle class, which we need to protect ourselves in the future politically. That's why they gutted the middle class. So we couldn't stand up to them because we didn't have the money to do it. These jobs are good manufacturing jobs, which are middle class jobs. The aerospace and defense centers account for $153 billion in contracts with foreign government entities, bolstering the American industrial base. Additionally, $5 billion in deals were signed to strengthen the energy security sector, particularly in oil, gas, and nuclear sectors. The information technology sector saw over $800 million in contracts, while the safety and security equipment sector recorded over $600 million in deals aimed at countering untrusted tech and covert tactics by foreign adversaries. That's a great story. Share that story with people because, again, who's covering this? This is about your and my individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. This is Trump working for you. And I have people telling me, yeah, I just don't see what Trump's doing good for America. Here it is. Share that story. That's a direct ask. I want you to do that. Okay? And then this story, this is just Trump, just crazy. Okay? Trump is now saying he's mulling a $2,000 dividend for Americans to share money from the tariffs. All right? Trump was on, One America News. President Trump floated the idea of giving Americans a $2,000 dividend using money generated through his controversial tariff policy. The president continues to claim the benefits of an economic plan despite widespread criticism, telling One America News Network that America's $37 trillion national debt is very little, relatively speaking, because of his Liberation Day tariffs. Now, that's a very big deal. The same interview, he said the tariffs will generate trillions of dollars a year. Since April, the tariffs have raised $214 billion. That's not trillions. Now Trump has said he wants to use some of the money to give a dividend to the people of America. We're thinking maybe to $1,000 to $2,000, it would be great. But we don't want it. You and I don't want him to get your check. We're in debt. We have a deficit. Any money the tariffs bring in, stop spending, stop borrowing to fund the government. So you just go, why is he doing that? And it's worrisome to me because the only reason he would do that is why the Democrats do it, right? During COVID and stuff, vote for me. I just sent you $2,000. So if they think they got to do that next year, that means something's not working right, kids. I don't like that one bit. But again, it's just Trump thinking outside the box, but we're not for that. I hope you're not for that. The tariff money should help fund the government without borrowing. That's what we need, okay? And then, this story is Trump just being Trump. Trump says Harvard will now run new trade schools as part of the grant deal. Then their sins are forgiven? What? President Trump said Tuesday that Harvard University has reached a tentative deal with his administration to restore $2.5 billion in frozen federal grants. So we froze $2.5 billion of grants to Harvard, who has an endowment of like $50 billion. And we froze that so they would stop the DEI and start their racist admission policies, right? And then he said America's oldest college will spend $500 million to launch and operate trade schools, ending a clash over issues including discrimination against Jewish students and the use of race-based affirmative action, Trump said. This would be a giant trade school or series of trade schools. It would be run by Harvard, the president told reporters in the Oval Office. Now, this is something we're close to finalizing. We haven't done it yet, but they'd put $500 million. Interest and everything else would go to that account, meaning go to the trade school. And you know, it's a big investment in a trade school done by very smart people, and their sins would be forgiven. He said, I guess we're closing on a deal with Harvard today, he said to Linda McMahon. Right, Linda? Trump, insisted that this is part of his, deal with them otherwise. My question is, other than to rub their nose in it, other than to make academic elitists at Harvard have to stoop so low as to run a series of trade schools, why in the hell would we want them to? Right? I mean, why would you, are you going to pay Harvard tuition to get trained to be a welder or a carpenter or a plumber? Why would we do that? They suck at education, and they certainly suck at trade schools. I think he's just trolling them, okay? I want them to give $500 million to existing trade schools. How about he force them to give $500 million and give it to Mike Rowe's foundation? I'm all for that. How about you? I'm all for that, baby. So, I don't know. That is interesting. So, I want to close now, again, talking a little bit about Charlie Kirk. For those of you from Ohio, remember, the We the People Convention started as an Ohio organization. After the 2020 election was stolen, and we ran a national ad calling for Trump to declare temporary limited martial law to have a revote, we became a national organization with 100,000 members in the 50 states. But we started in Ohio. And as I told you when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, we had a really personal relationship with him. Well, I finally found the video of Charlie Kirk, 20-year-old Charlie Kirk, speaking at the We the People Convention on September 20th, 2014 at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in downtown Columbus. And I posted that video on the We the People Convention website. And many of you in the Ohio Tea Party movement, many of the leaders, you are featured in this video because Charlie Kirk did what he always did. He had question and answers. And wow, is it fun to look back at how young we looked, right? You can see some of the best leaders in the Tea Party movement in that video. And it's amazing to see Charlie Kirk. You could see his greatness even then when he was just starting. So I hope you will go to We the People Convention and watch this video, wethepeopleconvention.org, and watch this video because you'll remember Charlie Kirk the way I think we should remember him. And I just love finding that. I love posting that. And I want to give credit to our friends and fellow patriots, Lanny and Brenda Daraberry, who did all the videos for the We the People Convention and the Portage County Tea Party and left us with these legacies. So please watch that to show you that this is still growing. We talked about the Turning Point USA, growing its chapters. We talked about thousands of campuses having students being baptized, okay, and joining because of Charlie Kirk. I wanted to play this video for you because it's so out of phase with what I would normally watch. I just happened to come across it. It's a Christian rapper, whatever that is, and his tribute to Charlie Kirk. And I played it for Nan, and she said, that's pretty cool. And so I'm going to play it for you. It's just like 3 minutes. So we wrap up the podcast with this. Watch.
To Charlie's family, I speak in mourning, not performance. I'm sorry for the wound this world has torn open. Yet even in silence, truth still breathes. Even in ashes, flames still speak. Charlie Kirk, he carried the weight of conviction. Spoke without venom, precision with vision. Didn't need fury to crush opposition. Clarity cut through the lies with incision. confusion. Now I'm apologetic, lamenting the cost to his family. I'm grieving the life that we lost, but I vow that his mission will not be forgotten. Roots of his courage grow stronger, not rotten. They tried to extinguish a flame with a stone, but sparks hit the ground and the wildfire's grown. He just spoke truth, never chained by rage. He just spoke truth. His torch still burns on history's page. Charlie's torch won't die in the dark. Truth keeps burning, it leaves its mark. Charlie's torch won't fade with the years. Revival rising through sorrow and tears. Look, grief in my chest, but my cadence relentless. Pain in the breath, but the message is senseless to bury. He stood unafraid in the culture's confusion. Answer deception with gospel infusion. Family, I'm sorry, this wound cuts deep, but faith plants seeds in the soil of grief. Like Christ on the cross when the mob thought done. Resurrection proved darkness can't win over sun. Charlie, like Jesus, remembered, not gone. Truth multiplies in the battles we're on. He just spoke truth. He just spoke truth. The voice of one man becomes a choir. Sparks of honesty turn into fire. From ashes of sorrow, revival's call. The torch he carried now passed to all. Charlie's torch won't die in the dark. Truth keeps burning, it leaves its mark. Charlie's torch won't fade with the years. Revival rising through sorrow and tears. Name in the wind, but the flame still lives. Legacy louder than hate ever gives. This is the servant zero signing off for now.
I thought that was pretty good. I hope you enjoyed it. The link to that, if you want to share that video, will be on our podcast page at wethepeopleconvention.org podcast page. Okay? And we'll continue to remember Charlie's memory for sure. As always, tell people about this podcast. You know, that's what it's all about. We're informing people so they can take action. We talk about all kinds of actions, you know, in this podcast. We want you to share the Pete Hegseth video, right? We want you to, you know, share the story about, you know, the businesses, that U.S. businesses and the jobs being created by the tariffs opening up foreign markets. People don't understand that, right? So this podcast is there for you. If we've said something wrong, correct us. Write to me at info@wethepeopleconvention.org. info@wethepeopleconvention.org. And then, you know, if you have story suggestions, you know, articles, stories we should have covered, send the link to info@wethepeopleconvention.org. I just ask that when you send videos, explain why you're sending it, why you think it's a good video, what it's about. People just send us a link. Here's a link. We don't have time to go through it, okay? Help us with that. But mostly, hold our feet to the fire. Hold us accountable by making sure that what we say here is the truth and that it's actionable by you. And then on our podcast page, we will list the action items for this week. Write to President Trump and say, no Trump RX. Change the name for that, okay? And I have another ask. This just occurred to me. I should have said it earlier. The government is shut down, and we're trying to pass a 7-week CR because Speaker Johnson is saying that they're working through the appropriations bills. There's 12 appropriations bills that the Congress is supposed to pass for each budget. And guess what? Those appropriation bills are negotiated in committees that your and my congressmen are on. And in those committees, they get to represent us. And that appropriations process has not been done in like 30 freaking years. And now they're telling me that they've already passed 5 of them and they're going to pass the rest of them. This would be historic. But you know what you haven't heard? What haven't you heard? They're working on these appropriations. This is to fund the government. Okay? Are there cuts? We're spending $2 trillion a year more than we take in. How much are they reducing spending? Haven't said a word about that, have they? Oh, but we're working on the appropriations bills. Here's a direct ask. Write to your congressman, call them, go to their bloody office if they're shut down. Maybe they're home. They've got an office in your area. Every congressman has an office in their district, and every senator has multiple offices in the state. Go to their office and say, how much money are you cutting in the appropriations? That's how you protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. And that's what this project is all about. That's what We the People Convention is all about. That's how you defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. We must cut the deficit and the debt, or the American dollar will not be the world currency. We're going off a cliff, and the left is trying to drive us off the cliff, and the Republicans are frickin' helping them. Direct ask. Contact your congressman and senator this week and say, where are the cuts in the appropriations? We need a balanced budget. It can't just be up to Trump. It's got to be up to them. And if they don't do it, why would we vote for them in 2026? Good question. Maybe we should primary them. Might want to bring that up. All right. We're going to close out the podcast for this week. I thank you so much for joining us. If you're new to the podcast, I hope you thought it was well worth your time. Please share it with others. God willing, we'll be back together again next week. Enjoy your life. Be happy warriors. Don't just let the darkness steal your heart. Bring in the light like Charlie Kirk did and have joy. Talk about the good we're doing and the good we're going to do, and fight the evil with all your might. Okay? Until next week, I hope you have a good week and you're in good health. And God willing, we'll be back together again. You've been watching the We the People Convention News and Opinion Podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski, and we'll see you next Saturday. May God bless you and yours, and may he continue to bless the United States of America. Bye now.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight